Hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant, and in this video you're going to discover the truth behind what it costs to advertise on YouTube, and most importantly, how you can dramatically reduce your costs and the factors that go into your YouTube ads costs, whether you're trying to grow your channel or drive more traffic and sales to your business. Timestamp table of contents in the description, along with some other helpful links to getting you up and running properly with your YouTube ads. So with that, let's just go ahead, jump right in, answer the question, when you're just getting started with YouTube ads, how much can you expect to pay per view? And the answer is very simple, 5 to 30 cents. And if you're paying more than 30 cents per view on a campaign, that most likely means there's something seriously wrong with your ad or your targeting that needs to be fixed immediately. Now, there's another way you could pay for YouTube ads, and this is something called a CPM, or cost per million or thousand impressions. And that's something that we aren't gonna talk about because that's not something you wanna use as a beginner. And really, that's it. That's all you could expect to pay. So the rest of the video, let's go ahead and go through how we can reduce that starting point of 30 cents down to closer to the 10 to 5 cent range. Now, here's a little diagram of what you could expect to pay based upon a daily budget and a monthly budget. And obviously, as you can tell, the less you're paying per view, the more views you're ultimately going to get. But something that's very important to remember as we go through this YouTube ads cost video is that just because you can get 1 cent views doesn't necessarily mean you want the 1 cent views, right? We also want to make sure that we're targeting the right people. So there might actually be times where it makes more sense to pay 20 or 30 cents because you're getting the right person versus 5 to 10 cents because you're just getting a bunch of random people who aren't ever going to subscribe or actually purchase your product or service. Now, when it comes to the cost structure, there are 2 places where you can control your costs, and then we'll go through the different types of ads and also the different types of targeting and some strategies to lower your cost per view. When it comes to your costs, you can set your budget at the campaign level. And this is where you're going to say how much you're going to spend per day or how much you're going to spend over a lifetime. I definitely don't recommend doing lifetime style stuff because then you have to recreate the campaign if it was successful. So pretty much always do a daily budget. This can be anywhere from $1 up to $1,000 or $10,000 a day. Of course, you're not going to start at 10 grand, probably around the $1 to $5 range when you're just getting started. And then at the ad group level, this is where you're going to set your cost per view. This is where you're going to tell Google, I don't want to pay more than this for each view. When you're just getting started, 10 to 15 cents is a good range to start with when you're setting your initial cost per view, and hopefully it's going to be a lot lower when you use some of the strategies you're about to learn. Now, the very first factor that comes into play when you're looking at how much your YouTube ads are going to cost comes down to the type of ads. And there are lots of types of ads, but we're going to focus on the 2 that are actually going to make the most sense for growing your channel or driving traffic and sales to your business. So the very first type is in-stream. And in-stream ads are the ones that pop up in front of the videos that you're watching across YouTube. They're typically the annoying ones. Not as annoying as those bumper ads though, because you can't skip those at all. But we'll get to bumper ads in a second. So with in-stream ads, what's very important to note is you only pay after someone watches at least 30 seconds, as long as your video ad is more than 30 seconds. So if you're going to do an in-stream ad, always have your video longer than 30 seconds. And so what people can do is the first 5 seconds of the ad, they can skip. And we'll get into a strategy you can use later on to use this 5 seconds to actually dramatically reduce your costs. So 5 seconds, then someone can skip. And then if they leave within the first 30 seconds, you actually wind up not paying for that view. So you only pay for views after the 30-second mark, which is really great, but your views are going to cost a lot more when compared to discovery ads. So discovery ads are those ads that show up in search and suggested on mobile and desktop around YouTube, and essentially you pay when someone clicks on it. And the video will load up just like a normal YouTube video. So unlike in-stream ads where you're actually going to have the ability to have a little banner at the bottom and have people directly click a link off of YouTube to your website, discovery ads are just going to show up as a normal video, and you're not going to have that banner on the side or that little banner at the bottom of the video for people to click off. So it's very important to remember, if you are trying to drive traffic off of YouTube, it makes more sense to pay a higher cost per view because you're going to get explicit places to put links. Whereas if you're doing discovery ads, they're going to cost a lot less than in-stream, but it's going to be harder to drive traffic off of YouTube because you're going to be pointing down here and going, click the link in the description, which is a lot harder to get people to do, especially if they're on mobile. So for in-stream, you're probably going to be in the 20 to 30 cent range, whereas discovery, you're probably going to be in the 5 to 10 cent range. Now, there are other types of ads that you can run that are actually going to wind up being more expensive. So you can have an outro ad and a bumper ad. So an outro ad, what that is it's a video that shows up at the end, outro, of a normal YouTube video, kind of like an in-stream ad, except you pay pretty much right as someone starts watching it. And then bumper ads are those annoying 6-second ads that big brands use, and I really do not recommend anyone use these because they're significantly more expensive and you're just paying every time someone watches it. And 6 seconds really isn't enough time to get anyone to take an action or get engaged enough to go look up your channel. So those are the other types of ads you can play with, but I highly recommend just sticking with the in-stream and discovery ads because they're going to be the least cost for the best action and result and benefit. Now, the next thing that really impacts the cost per view when it comes to YouTube ads is your targeting. Now, whether you're doing in-stream, bumper, outro, discovery, your targeting options are pretty much going to be the same. And inside of YouTube, there are two different types of targeting options. You have targeting by audience and targeting by content. So targeting by content, this is keywords and topics, are typically going to cost less than targeting by audience, which is going to be affinity, in-market, and remarketing and similar audiences. So the key differences between the two is one is focused on the type of content that your ads are showing up on versus the other is focused on the person that you're targeting. So obviously targeting the person versus the content is going to be a higher cost, but you're typically going to get a better quality view with the exception of targeting channels because Google and YouTube are switching up how channel targeting works. And so channel targeting is actually starting to be one of the best ways to target. So let's go ahead and just break down which one should you be looking at based upon what you're trying to do. Now, when it comes to driving leads and sales, you want to target in-market, remarketing, similar audiences, and channels. These are typically going to be the most expensive when it comes to running in-stream ads. However, it's going to get you the best quality view because if you're trying to drive traffic off of YouTube, quality definitely trumps how much you are paying per view. And when it comes to subscribers and views, affinity, channels, and remarketing or similar audiences is where you want to go. Now, something that's very, very important with all of these targeting options, how do you know which one's going to cost more or less? We've gone through the generalities of this, but in terms of a concrete, the smaller the audience you are targeting, the higher the cost is going to be. Because when it comes to YouTube ads and Google ads in general, when you're trying to be really, really specific, like I just want this person, Google's gonna go, okay, well, we'll give you just this person, but we're gonna charge you a lot more money if you just want this person versus if you want all of these people, right? So the more narrow you're targeting, the higher your ad costs are going to be. So when you're just getting started with YouTube ads, you don't want to do remarketing, you don't want to just do similar audiences, you want to do a broad market of affinity, in-market, or just targeting really large YouTube channels because your costs are going to be low and testing your ad copy is actually more important at that stage than trying to zero in on the exact channel or exact affinity or in-market audience that's really, really going to perform well for you. And because your costs are significantly lower, you're actually going to get a lot more good data and be able to build your remarketing audience that's ultimately going to be one of your best traffic sources. But you have to have a lot of people on that remarketing list before it makes sense to pay for. So that's the second factor that goes into how high or low your ad costs are going to be. Now, the third biggest factor to your YouTube ads cost is actually going to come down to the quality of your ad. Now, something that Google ads has that YouTube ads don't have is something called a quality score, which essentially is Google's way, I'm getting tongue-tied today, Google's way of telling you whether or not your ad sucks, pretty much. Now, YouTube doesn't give you that specific metric, but they do give you another metric called display rank lost is. And what this does is it tells you of all the times you could have showed up, how many times did your ad not show up because Google doesn't think your ad is relevant. So what you want is actually this metric to be very low. You want this percentage to be very low. So this is a column that you can set up inside of YouTube ads. It's super simple. You just click on columns and you can select it under competitive metrics. You want to look for those campaigns that have a lower display rank loss percentage, because that's Google saying, hey, it's great that you're targeting these people, and it's great that you're targeting these people because we find this ad very relevant. So that percentage is going to be low. Now, if you're looking at the inverse where the display rank loss is very high, then all of a sudden that's Google saying, hey, it's great you want to target those people, but we don't think your ad is all that great, and we're going to charge you more because you're asking us to serve a video to a bunch of people who don't really want to watch your video. In Google's eyes, right? It doesn't matter if you want that audience to watch the video. If Google doesn't think your video is relevant, that percentage is going to go up, which means you have to pay more in order to target those people. So you definitely want to keep an eye on this column, because this column is going to be an early warning sign of whether or not you're paying too much to target an audience with a unrelevant video. Now we'll get into a pro tip at the end where you're actually going to see another column you can use to actually cut your cost per view, but we'll get to that at the end of the video. Now that does it for the three main factors of what goes into how much you're going to pay for YouTube ads and whether or not you're going to be closer to the 5-cent range or you're going to be closer to the 30-cent range. So as a quick summary, in-stream is going to be more expensive than discovery, but in-stream is great if you're driving traffic off of YouTube. Remember, quality of views matters just as much, if not more, than what you're paying. Then the second factor goes into the audiences that you're targeting. The smaller the audience, the more you're going to pay. And the third factor is whether or not your video ad is relevant to the audience that you're targeting. Display rank lost is going to be Google's way of telling you whether or not they think your ad is great or it kind of stinks. Now, let's go ahead and go into a strategy we can use with in-stream and discovery ads to help reduce our costs. Now, remember, in-stream ads, you only pay the first 30 seconds, which means in the first 30 seconds, what you want to do is eliminate everyone else who isn't a good fit for whatever you're trying to sell. So in the first 5 seconds, you really want to just get your message or your brand out there as quickly as possible, because that's a great, it's free time, right? Everyone's gonna have to watch that 5 seconds. And so if you care at all about brand awareness, or you're trying to grow your channel and just get the word out about who you are, that first 5 seconds is going to be critical, because nobody can skip it and you're at least going to get 5 seconds free, right? Then the next 25 seconds, you want to eliminate everyone else who isn't a good fit for your channel or your business, your product, your service. And there's a link in the description to a full-blown YouTube ads tutorial that actually walks through my simple 90-second video script that you can go ahead and check out, that takes a deeper dive into how to structure your in-stream ad. But this is a great way to make sure that you're getting exposure and you're not paying a bunch of money for views of people who ultimately don't care about your channel or don't care about your business. Now, the next strategy that we have is making sure that your end screen gives people plenty of time to click. Something that a lot of new advertisers make the mistake of is not giving people time to click at the end of the video. So this is going to apply whether you're doing discovery or in-stream. And pretty much your end screen needs to last at least 20 to 30 seconds, because at this point you've already paid for the view, right? So it doesn't really matter how long the end screen is. So if you're doing a discovery ad, the discovery and in-stream, you want some sort of picture, graphic, and then something that tells people what to do next. If you're doing a in-stream ad, you're going to have arrows for mobile and desktop so they can click on those little banners. If you're doing a discovery ad, you just want a banner at the bottom saying, click the link in the description or click subscribe below if you're doing a content strategy. Now, a pro tip as we wrap things up is going to be your budget lost column. So similar to your rank loss column, this is Google's way of telling you how your ad is performing, except this time it's looking at your overall budget. So remember, you're setting your budget at the campaign level. You're saying $5 a day, $10, $20 a day, whatever it may be. And here, Google's going to tell you of all the times you could have showed up, how many times did you not show up because of your budget or because of your cost per view bid. Sometimes you'll find that you just don't show up at all because your bid is too low, which is why I recommend starting at the 10 to 15 cent range, not 3 to 5 cent range. Now, if your budget lost is less than 30%, then you can actually try lowering your cost per view. Essentially what this is saying is, hey, you know what? Of all the times you could have showed up, you only didn't show up 30% of the time because of your budget, right? So that means that you might be able to get away with paying less per view. So you might be at the top spot or the top 2 or 3 spot in terms of bidding, because this is a auction after all. You're making a bid to have that spot to run your ad. And so you might be able to get the same amount of traffic by just lowering your bid, because you might be way outbidding whatever competitors are looking for that particular audience. And especially as you can see here in this screenshot, you see one is at only 5% potential reach is limited by the budget. Well, I could actually try lowering the cost per view, or I could just lower the budget and see if I can improve the efficiency of my budget by paying less per view and just paying less overall to get a similar result. Of course, this only works if your rank is very low. If you're seeing this is low and your rank is high, then this isn't gonna work. So thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope you got some value out of this video and you have a clear understanding of what the heck goes into how much you're going to ultimately pay for YouTube ads, and you have some good insights as how to reduce the cost per view that you're paying for YouTube ads. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more in-depth YouTube ads tutorials and traffic strategies just like the ones covered in this video. And until the next, keep building the business you love.